I'm sorry, I was waiting to sing another verse of that song. It's good to see you all here this morning. I'm surprised there's this many here, uh, but we're very happy that you've come to be with us. I heard a story a long time ago. There was a preacher put up a tent to hold a revival meeting in the tent. And the night came, first night, he got up to preach, and he looked out, and there's only one farmer sitting in the back of the tent. And he thought for a moment what to do, and he decided, well, I came to preach, I'm going to preach. And he did. Well, he preached for about an hour. He got done, he went to the back of the tent, the man come out shaking hands with him. He said, man, that was a long sermon, preacher. He said, well, let me ask you a question. If you go out to feed 100 head of cattle every day, and one day you go out and there's only 3 cows that showed up, would you feed them? He said, yeah, I'd feed them, but I wouldn't give them the whole load. You're going to get the whole load. This is strange. Sean mentioned it a moment ago. We're living in a strange time. None of us have seen anything like this before. But I guess we'll feel our way through it one day at a time. Pray the Lord keep blessing us, and things will continue going well. Hopefully we won't have any problems in our community, our area. Those who are at home watching on the internet, we miss you today, especially our members. We miss you being with us, but we're glad you're safe and sound. Regarding the future, how long this will go on, I have no idea. This could be the end of it. Maybe it'll go on for a month. Who knows? But we have to make plans accordingly. So what we'll continue to do is we'll pass out the little cups of the Lord's Supper for those who want to come by and pick them up and then use them at home. We'll use them here in this building while we're here in the building. As far as your contribution goes, I've had a lot of phone calls. Just lay your contribution aside, and 2 or 3 weeks when the bills start rolling in, we'll come to your house and pick it up. Also, if there are any people, especially the elderly, who don't need to be in the grocery stores and things, if you need something purchased and brought to you, we'll be more than happy to bring it to you. Just be sure to let us know. We want everybody to be very careful during this time. Take all precautions to keep yourself safe from a virus of this magnitude. But we pray the Lord will bless us, continue to bless us, and hopefully this will be gone before long. I don't know if it really matters or not, because there'll probably be another one come right after this. I remember a few years ago, remember the SARS virus? It also came out of China. And then a few years after, well, this back during the last 2 decades, actually. Then there was the swine flu, you remember. And then last year they were saying 34,000 Americans died from the flu. I didn't know that. I almost fell over. But there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. And we have to learn to be wise as serpents, yet harmless as doves during this time. So always be very, very careful. The coronavirus pandemic, I don't guess you've seen that this week, have you, on your television screen? I think Fox News, that's the only thing they've ever had up this week. The coronavirus pandemic. I don't know exactly what this means. I don't know anything about a coronavirus. Well, I don't know anything about swine flu, so I'm not losing ground anywhere. But I don't know what to believe or not believe. I'm like most of you. I don't know. We go by what we're told. We try to do our best and keep praying to God to keep blessing us all the way. This pandemic, in the midst of it, what I want to talk about with you just a few moments this morning is wait on the Lord. Wait. That's the key word. Wait on the Lord. It means more than we probably think it means. And that's what I want to talk about just a little bit. The psalmist in 27 verse 14 said, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. During times of difficulty, if we mind our business as Christians, we'll come out on the other end better than we were when everything starts. Problems like this are intended to help us grow spiritually. And they shall, provided we wait on the Lord. That's the key. To be strengthened, we have to wait on the Lord. So the idea of waiting on the Lord becomes very important. Evildoers, he said in Psalm 37 and verse 9, shall be cut off. But those who wait on the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. These are the winners of life, those who wait on the Lord. These are the overcomers, the victors, the successful ones in the world are those who learn to wait on the Lord Jesus Christ. Job, one of the most fascinating characters in all the Bible, I think, is this man Job. He's always made me feel better about myself. One of the problems we have living inside ourselves is the fact that we know we are far from perfect. We are imperfect. We fail in a number of ways. Nobody knows. You don't know my failings. I don't go around broadcasting them everywhere. But there are flaws I have that I'm fully aware of. And it troubles us because of these imperfections we see in ourselves. Can I be approved by God? Will I live in heaven? I'm not, holy of my own. I'm not pure of my own. And I know this, and it troubles me. Will God really accept me and let me live with him in heaven? And then every now and then we run across a character like Job. Job is a lot like you and I. One major difference. He's held up in the Bible as a man of great faith, a man that God is truly pleased with. But like all of us, Job fell short of the glory of God. As we study about the testings Job went through, it's believed he either had leprosy or elephantitis, but it was a horrible, horrible disease that tormented his very soul. It appears that it went on for months. According to some of the ancient translations, it went on for 7 years that he suffered in this manner. It was a horrible existence. And sometimes Job, perhaps delirious from his illness, perhaps pushed to the limit because of his pain. I don't know why. But sometimes Job spoke totally out of character and accused the Lord of doing bad things. He accused the Lord, for example, of taking pleasure out of shooting darts at him, as though he were doing it for sport. Now, I know that Job knows the Lord doesn't do things like that. Notwithstanding, Job said it. So what we do with Job, we see a great man of faith, and yet we see a man. And because we do see a man, it gives us better understanding. And because of our understanding, it brings us an amount of comfort. And Job, I think, is a very interesting person because of that. James said, indeed we count them blessed who endure tribulations of various sorts. You have heard of the perseverance of Job, a very well-known man at the time of James's writing. Job, he persevered. He overcame. He endured until the end of his trial. Though he did misstep along the way, he never gave up on God. You have seen the end intended by the Lord, that the Lord is very compassionate and merciful. What I want to focus in on are two words. The first is the word endure. The second is the fact that you have seen the end. Notice now, intended by the Lord. Okay? Job had to endure this trial of affliction. He had to live through this because there was a goal that the Lord wanted to achieve with Job. We know that he wanted to help Job grow in faith. And therefore, to help him, to assist him in coming to greater knowledge, in coming to a greater faith, the Lord allowed him to suffer the affliction he was afflicted by, and ultimately he did in fact overcome. Job endured his plight, and in doing so he achieved the goal the Lord wanted him to achieve. Well, that's what happens with you and I as well. We have to live through different kinds of trials, the loss of a loved one, sometimes sickness, sometimes financial ruin. We have to endure these things. We have to persevere, overcome these things, and hopefully in the end, because we do endure, we'll come out better on the other side than we were when we first entered in. There's a goal. God is always with us. He's always with us. His children he loves so much, and he's always working on behalf of his children, safeguarding them, sometimes bringing them through the fire of affliction, but always, always, always with the intention of helping them become better people in the final analysis. The word perseverance or patience, they both mean the same thing, comes from the Greek term hupomene. It's a two-parter. It's hupo, under, and then meno, which means to abide. Literally, it means to abide under. So you're talking about it, when you talk about perseverance or patience, you're talking about it in the context of abiding under fear, pressure, stress, great difficulties. It's imperative that you and I have to experience these things. We don't like it. I don't like it. You don't like it. Nobody likes it. It's not fun. It hurts, and it causes us to have our lives turned upside down. We just don't like these kinds of problems in our life. But these problems in our life are necessary. We're here for a reason. We're here to learn to become like the Son of God, to conform to his image, as Paul said in Romans 8:29. We are to become like Jesus. Well, how is that going to be achieved? How is that going to be done? I don't know. But God knows. He knows how to help me reach that goal. And one of the things that's so necessary for us to experience is pain and suffering. Even the Son of God had to go through pain and suffering to reach his maximum place while in this world. And he did. He overcame. He persevered. And he died a perfect, sinless man. He achieved the goal. He became the Redeemer of all humanity because he was an acceptable sacrifice according to the divine rule. Jesus overcame. And he was successful because he endured life's difficulties. And so must we. Things like a coronavirus, a swine flu, the regular flu, whatever. These are necessary. These all help us to hone our skills and become more spiritual, spiritually stronger. And it's not fun today, but when we get to heaven, we're going to look back and think, well, that was a piece of cake. It's like a woman that has a baby. Oh my, it's the worst time of her life. And then after the child goes home with mom and she looks at her little baby, all of a sudden the pain wasn't as bad. And the longer she enjoys life with the child, the less painful the birth was. And that's the way it'll be with you and I one day when we reach heaven. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, perhaps one of the most noted verses of waiting on the Lord is found in this place. Those who wait on the Lord, Isaiah said, they shall renew their strength. Renew, to refreshen their faith. Faith may get a bit dull. Faith may be taken for granted. Faith may not be given much attention. Well, sometimes faith is renewed. How is faith? Well, right now faith is renewed. The coronavirus, we look to God. The whole country looks to God. The president's praying to God. The Congress is talking about God. Whenever there are things like this that happen in our nation, in the world, God becomes a popular topic of discussion. People think about God, and that's a good thing. Those who wait on the Lord, that put their trust in Him, their confidence in Him, those who wait on the Lord, they shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. William Barclay has a wonderful statement he wrote on this very thing, and I'd like to read it with you. He suggests, it is the spirit which can bear things. And that's true. The outer man, flesh, the blood, it's here today, gone tomorrow. The spirit, though, is immortal. And it's the spirit which has the tenacity to endure all kinds of affliction, all kinds of suffering. It is the spirit that soars, not the flesh, the spirit that soars. So this is the primary subject of Isaiah's prophecy. Not simply with resignation. The spirit doesn't bear things simply by resigning to the fact, oh, well, I've got nothing else I can do, nowhere better I can be. No, that's not what faith does. The Spirit bears all things with a blazing hope. I know that the best is yet to come. A lot of people wring their hands. They're fearful. This is the end of time. They're tore all to pieces. They're so concerned about what's going on. They have no peace of mind. They have little hope. Not child of God, the person who knows Christ. We bear things because we know we have a hope that we hold on to, that no matter what we face today, the best is yet to come. It is not the spirit which sits statically, doing nothing, sitting idly, enduring in the one place, but the spirit which bears things because it knows that these things we suffer, coronavirus, etc., these things are leading to a goal of glory. That's what we discussed just a moment ago. We come out on the far side better than we were on the near side. It is not the patience which grimly waits for the end. Oh, well, we'll just bide our time and wait for this thing to get over. No, that's not the spirit that soars. The patience which radiantly hopes for the dawn of a better day. That's the difference between faith and unbelief. That's the difference between little faith and great faith. The more faith we possess, the more confidence we possess. And the better we can deal with the situations that we are forced to endure during our lifetimes. These shall run, but they won't grow weary. Oh, that's not to say they won't get tired, but they're not going to quit running. They're going to continue to run. They won't be wore down. They shall walk and not faint, give up, fall out on the side of the road. These are the ones who never give up. No matter how hard it is, they won't give up. Why? They know. They've resigned themselves to the fact that there's a better day coming, and they wait for it. Sometimes you got to grit your teeth. Sometimes you got to chew on a towel. Sometimes you cry yourself to sleep. But there's a better day coming. And as Bill read a few moments ago about Jesus coming back to receive us unto himself, we know the best is yet to come. And that's why we don't give up or quit. Life is difficult. Life is difficult. Seems like an understatement, but I think it's a fair expression. Satan tested Job, and he did so in a number of ways. Now here's the key. If Satan tested Job in a number of ways, he's going to test us the same way, right? Huh? Isn't it his intention to break the heart of God by causing us to stumble and fall? That's what he did with Job. The only reason Job loves you, God, is because you give him all the good stuff. You take the good stuff away from him and watch him, he'll curse you to your face. Satan's intention is to hurt the heart of God, and the only way he can hurt the heart of God is by us. When we stumble and fall, God's heart hurts because his children are suffering. And Satan's going to come after us, we're told, like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He did that with Job. He will do that with you and I, even though he's under greater restraint today than he was at that time. Nevertheless, notice the sufferings Job went through. Financial disaster, loss of property. A lot of us who depend on our retirement through the stock market, Oh, we've been boo-hooing like crazy for the last week. Stock market going down, 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 down. And as it does, of course, your returns go down, down, down with it. And you wonder where it's going to bottom out. A lot of people have lost a lot of money in just a very, very, very short time. A lot of businesses, industry, a lot of people losing their jobs. A lot of people are suffering financial loss right now. And it's hard. It's very hard to lose your financial profits from before. Because, well, we depend on money, right? We depend on money to a certain degree. We have to. If you want to buy a loaf of bread, you got to have money, so you depend on money. That's why we buy insurance. We depend on money. We need money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But some people will crumble under the loss of their finances, and that's when it becomes a very, very sad thing. Job lost it all. He lost everything. When Satan got done with him, he was a poor man. He had nothing. The sudden unexpected loss of family members, 10 children, in one day, one time, they're gone. The tornado took them out of this world. 10 children, 10 graves, 10 holes in the ground. Job watched as every one of his children were buried in the earth. I can't imagine that kind of suffering. And all these things were happening in rapid succession in one day. There was the loss of his personal health. As I mentioned a moment ago, either he had leprosy or elephantitis. Who knows? It might have been something else. But what he did have was very painful. It was very sore. It hurt him physically. It hurt him emotionally. It hurt him spiritually. Job suffered in a way that I've never suffered. Pray to God I never had to suffer. And how long he had to go through it, who knows but God. But he lost it. I lost some of my health several years back. It hasn't been a roller coaster ride since then, but hey, I get by. You know, it's nothing like Job ever had to endure. Sure, we suffer sometimes. We lose our health, and it can be very, very hard. And then, of course, maybe the worst of all is the loss of our support, whether it be family or friends. Job lost it all. His wife told him to curse God and die. Get it over with. His friends accused him of being a sinner. If you weren't a sinner, God wouldn't let this happen to you. The only reason you're suffering is because you're a sinner, and God's punishing you for your sins. That was due to their erroneous theology. I haven't been alone. I don't think I've ever been alone, actually. But I've never been alone in recent memory, at least. There's always been people around me who cared about me, tried to encourage me, help me. Never blamed me for my own problems. And I've always hoped for better things to come. Job had none of that. He didn't have a friend except for God. And while he went through all these things, this great man of God, as I mentioned a moment ago, there were periods during his suffering when he lashed out at God for being so cruel and mean-spirited. But then Job would come back around. I don't know that he ever apologized, but he started talking differently. It was a horrible time for Job. His attitude, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Though God slay me, yet will I trust him. You know, from Job's vantage point, slaying him might have looked like a blessing. If I'd have been Job, that's what I would have thought of. Take my life and bless me in so doing. But Job, he was serious to the bone. There was nothing God could do that would cause him to lose faith in God. Job overcame. And that's the reason why we remember the patience of Job. He overcame. And we see the end the Lord intended for him. What was it? Well, Job became wealthy again through all the property he acquired. Job had 10 more children, doubling the number of his children. 10 was with the Lord in paradise, 10 with Job on the earth. And then there was the friends, the many, many, many friends he had. But most importantly, Job could see God more clearly. He understood God more perfectly. Job's theology was, in the beginning, that bad things happen to bad people. That's the way he and his fellows thought. That if you're suffering, God is punishing you for some specific sin. That's why his friends told him to confess his sin. You wouldn't suffer like this if you hadn't sinned. That's the kind of God that Job knew. A God who punished the bad, blessed the good. And now suddenly here he is. He's done nothing he can think of that would warrant this kind of suffering. And nevertheless he suffers. How does he reconcile this with his Creator? Well, he learns that his understanding of God was warped. He's seen a God that didn't exist. He didn't see the true living God as he really is. That it's the intention of God to work with his people to help them come out better on the other side. That was the end intended by the Lord, especially the latter one, that Job would see God more clearly. Everything else he had and lost, he doubled. But the most important thing of all was his ability now to see God as he truly is and quit accusing people of bad things when they did nothing bad just because they were suffering. Wait on the Lord, not merely tolerating a difficult situation. Endurance, remaining steadfast, combined with a confident expectation of better things in the future, not resigning ourselves to the end is near, but trusting God and moving on with our lives, being wise, being prudent, but moving on with our lives, not cowering in a corner. We have to trust God. Not long ago, we had our tornado we're all still painfully aware of. And I've gotten shudders probably 50 times thinking about it. Blake and Crystal Mayberry's next door neighbor, he said that the roof on their house actually rolled like this when the tornado went across. It actually, he said, looked like a sheet floating. As the tornado passed over the house, their roof rolled, but it didn't fall. This man said it seemed as though the tornado raised up before it got to Blake and Crystal's, got past his house, and then it sat back down. And when you go there, that's what it looks like too. And I thank God, thank God, thank God that the tornado did not hurt our babies. Did the Lord protect them through the storm? I don't know. Could he have? Well, sure, he's God. He can do anything he wants to do. But this much I know, the subdivision's gone. And Blake and Crystal and that neighbor is still with us. Wait on the Lord, observing the goodness of God, patiently enduring this thing we call life. But I could die, someone would say. I could say it like this, but you will die. I will die, you will die, because it's appointed unto every human being to die. Today, tomorrow, I don't know. I really don't know. And neither do you. Paul said, for me, to live is Christ, to die, well, die is gain. As long as I'm alive, I'll serve Christ. But man, if I get to die, that's the one you shoot for. Paradise with the Son of God is much better than being here. But if I live on in the flesh, this will mean fruit from my labor. I'll keep helping people to grow in faith. I could die and be with Christ. I could stay here and help others. And he said, yet what I shall choose, I cannot tell. Do I prefer to live? Do I prefer to die? If I stay, people will be helped spiritually. If I die, I'll be helped personally. I don't know what to wish for, he's saying. I'm hard-pressed between the two. Having a desire to depart and to be with the Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to remain here in the flesh is more needful for you. And I go back and forth. What shall I choose? I heard a fellow one time make fun of Christians. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die. And when I first heard that years ago, I thought, he's right. People of great faith, and yet we don't want to die. If we die, we go to paradise, yet we don't want to die. And it troubled me again because it seemed like weak faith on my part. But then after I studied for time, I came to understand, it's like Paul. He wanted to take care of Paul, and death was far better. But he also loved people, and because he loved people, he didn't want to leave. And that's the way we are. We got families. We don't want to leave our families. We've got kids. I got a wife. My BR needs me. If I die, well, she'll go crazy. She can't imagine life without me. She's here. I said that. She's here. It's a hard place to be because we don't know what we want. But there's even more. We know, for example, the Lord can deliver me from death. That was my personal opinion about Blake and Crystal and their two girls. I don't know, but I like to think the Lord caused that tornado to raise up and go over their house. I don't know, but that's what I keep in my heart. Paul said in 2 Timothy 3:11, persecutions, afflictions was happening to me at Antioch, at Iconium, at Lystra. What persecutions I endured. Things were very hard, but I did not give up. I did not quit. I kept fighting the good fight of faith. And out of them all, the Lord delivered me. Every trial this man came up again, every hardship he had to face and endure, he said, it was the Lord who brought me through it. He said, I endured, and the Lord took care of the rest. I tell you how I think about it, very simply. If I live, I live. If I die, I die. But as for right now, I'm going to try to be the best me I can be. And let God take care of the rest. What's my point? Never give up hope. Never quit. Always move forward. Always be a blessing to others. Always seek glory for God. And when our time comes, we will be so happy. I know it's hard. What else are we going to do? What else are we going to do? Sing and be happy, the song goes. Sing and be happy. If you're not a Christian, that's why you're alive, as God wanted you to make a choice to become one. If you are a Christian, sometimes when we look in our heart, we don't necessarily like what we see, and we hope for better. We want to repent to God. We want to pray for forgiveness. If you do, if this is the time, we hope you'll come. Let us pray with you while together we stand and while we sing.